In the 1920s and 30s, the Soviet state bureaucracy was actively engineering a culture of total ideological conformity. The claustrophobic pressure of state control demanded a single, unified narrative from its citizens. Joseph Stalin represented the ultimate realization of this environment, a system governed by a single authoritative voice, where unapproved perspectives were systematically erased. Operating in the direct shadow of this machinery was the philosopher Mikhail Bakhtin. While his contemporaries, the Russian formalists, analyzed literature strictly as a closed, mechanical system of linguistic rules, Bakhtin rejected this method. He saw formalism as entirely insufficient for understanding how humans actually communicate. For Bakhtin, literature is a profoundly humanistic engagement. A text is not a static object to be dissected. It is an active site of social conflict and relationship. Bakhtin categorized the novel as a supergenre, a force that works within a literary system to reveal its limits and artificial constraints. And this structure shatters monolithic, state-mandated truths by subjecting them to a spectrum of distinct, overlapping human voices. The internal structure of a narrative is a political architecture. It is built either to enforce ideological control or to liberate the human soul. At the foundation of Bakhtin's theory is the concept of dialogics. He posits that all language is inherently relational. A word does not contain static, isolated meaning on its own. The primary mechanism is addressivity. A word is never uttered without the consciousness of an other. It requires a target, an addressee, to stabilize. Meaning only exists in the indeterminate, open friction between the speaker and the addressee. It is a living event. How an author manages this friction defines the ideological weight of the text. For centuries, literature was governed by what Bakhtin identifies as the monologic tradition. You see this explicitly in the works of Leo Tolstoy, as well as many 19th-century British novelists. The architectural flaw of monologism is its strict hierarchy. The author sits at the apex, dictating a single truth, and systematically subordinates every diverse character perspective. In this system, characters become voiceless objects. Their words are merely deductions of the author's own ideology, locked into a predetermined design. The hero in a monologic text is treated as a finalized fact. They are an object to be mastered and analyzed by the author, rather than a living, breathing consciousness with agency. The monologic structure fails on a moral level, because this closed loop of knowledge perfectly mimics totalitarian control. It guarantees narrative neatness at the direct expense of human freedom. Bakhtin found the structural antithesis to this system in the works of Fyodor Dostoevsky, identifying him as the creator of polyphonic discourse. Polyphony shatters the rigid top-down hierarchy. The author is demoted from an all-knowing dictator to merely one voice among many, placed on a flat plane alongside the characters. Characters exist on the exact same epistemological level. They are granted unmerged, free speech within a decentralized web of communication. Within this web, a hero is a word, an active, evolving consciousness, rather than a static, objective fact. The importance of any given detail in a polyphonic novel is no longer its objective truth. What matters is the subjective significance that detail holds for the specific character voicing it. Bakhtin traces this structural openness back to an ancient anti-tradition rooted in folk culture, Carnivalization. He points to the medieval rituals of the public square, specifically the crowning and decrowning of a mock king through actions of the grotesque. By inverting established values, the carnival concretizes abstract power and makes all authority relative. The community actively mocks the very institutions that govern them. The modern novel absorbs this public square ritual through stylization, parody, and the double address of the word. A character's speech can point directly at an object while simultaneously bending sideways to intercept and disrupt another speaker's authority. Polyphony acts as a literary carnival. It structurally dismantles ideological authority by guaranteeing characters the absolute right to unmerged oppositional speech. This deep respect for unmerged speech explains Bakhtin's profound ontological suspicion of modern psychological approaches to literature. He viewed the attempt to perfectly map, analyze, and know a character's internal mind as an oppressive act. One consciousness extending out to completely envelop another is a diminishment of the human soul. He posed a core philosophical question regarding this psychological conquest. what would I have to gain if another were to fuse with me? Mastering another consciousness through empathy or psychological analysis merely traps the author within their own inescapable closed circle. The target is reduced to a flat, objectivized image. The philosophical cost of this finalization is severe. To completely objectify the other is to silence them, stripping away their human freedom. Bakhtin's ethical alternative requires the privacy of the unfinalizable self. True knowledge can only occur when the other remains outside, passing dialogue back and forth across an empty gap. Ethical engagement in literature, and in reality, requires active dialogue with an independent consciousness, not the psychological conquest of it. Because of this demand for open dialogue, Bakhtin categorizes the novel as the only developing genre, entirely distinct from the rigid constraints of classical forms. This diagram illustrates the distinction. While the epic is trapped in the cyclical time of a closed, finished past, the novel is oriented toward contemporary reality. It pushes forward along a linear timeline into an inconclusive present. This allows the novel to absorb all other genres, testing them and breaking their limits, without ever resolving into a final shape. This leads to Bakhtin's ultimate existential verdict. To be means to communicate dialogically. When dialogue ends, everything ends. The polyphonic text sustains an interminable, open-ended dialogical opposition, an architecture for human freedom.